Hello, this is Joycelyn and you're watching Crisis Across Borders, Uniqlo in China. Today, we enter the world of global fashion and high-stakes geopolitics. The story can be summarized as follows. A retail giant, which is extremely popular due to its streamlined designs and international apparel, fell into the trap of one of the most politically charged markets on earth. What occurred in China and Uniqlo was not a PR stumble, but rather a collision between a corporate neutrality and nationalism, between international branding and the local expectation.
Uniqlo campaign, it's part of a larger nationalist movement.
Uniqlo faces backlash in China after CEO Tadashi Yanai declared the brand doesn't use Xinjiang cotton.
A Japanese retailer is facing a boycott in China after comments about where it sources its cotton. The global fashion chain Uniqlo is owned by Fast Retailing. The chief executive, Tadashi Yanai, told the BBC they do not get cotton from China's Xinjiang region.
No, we're not using cotton from Xinjiang. You know by mentioning which cotton we're using.
The backlash that Uniqlo suffered in China did not land suddenly. It was a product of politics, culture, and a brand that happened to be at the wrong end of a crossfire. Political. The ban of Xinjiang cotton on forced labor by Western nations was in contradiction with the nationalist chants of the Chinese in defending the product. This often placed Uniqlo in a lose-lose situation because of conformity with the values of one market meant the rejection of the other. Economically, China's USD 350 billion apparel industry is hyper-competitive with patriotic domestic brands like Addae and Li-Ning using nationalist marketing to win share during boycotts. The consumer shift of loyalty posed an immediate threat to the revenue of Uniqlo in China. In terms of socio-cultural, according to the collectivist culture of China, brands are meant to make consistent with national identity. This norm was contrasted with the neutral position of Tadashi Yanai because silence can be an indication of disloyalty. On Weibo, the nationalists redefined neutrality into their concept of betrayal, and their criticism was replicated in the previous boycotts of H&M and Nike. By the time when the story went viral, it was no longer an issue concerning sourcing of cotton. It was a national pride, and recovering will be much more difficult to foreign brand. Technologically, the blistering backlash on social media such as Douyin and WeChat demanded crisis responses that are immediate and locally viable. The centralized PR of Uniqlo failed to compete with the viral speeds. For environmental factors, the existence of opposing global sustainability discourse regarding the Xinjiang cotton made Uniqlo CSR messaging become complicated. Lastly, for the legal factors, Western sanctions and Chinese anti-sanctions position placed the Uniqlo brand between contradicting compliances pressure. For the internal failures itself is a standardized PR approach ignore local sensitivities, delayed engagement allow nationalist influencers to dominate the story, eroding customer trust and weakening Uniqlo's market position. This diminished their ability to compete against agile local rivals during the crisis. Uniqlo also followed a hybrid type of marketing, a mixture of adaptation and standardization. On one hand, they re-emphasized political neutrality and refuted the use of Xinjiang cotton. This indicates a scale of standardization approach, maintaining the brand messaging uniformly across the globe. Meanwhile, small-scale product store-level chains try to adapt to the Chinese market environment on the other. In crisis communication terms, this corresponds with the situational crisis communication theory by Coombs, in regard to a diminished strategy by which there is minimization of responsibility but no direct opposition. The desired result: preserve the integrity of the global brand without turning off the Chinese or Western consumers. That being said, in high-context collectivist culture such as the one in China, neutrality was not seen as diplomacy but evasiveness. The nationalist makers presented the position of a betrayal, which provoked outrage among the population. Although there was no break in operations, the brand sentiment in China decreased by 20% and digital engagement decreased drastically. The trade-off was evident because the strategy maintained the trust of Western market and sheltered Uniqlo against human rights activism in other countries but lower competitive positioning in the Chinese high-end clothing industry, still one of the largest and most rapidly growing market. This displays the underlying conflicts between unity in global brand and a local cultural rationale, a key issue in international marketing. With the Xinjiang scandal behind it, Uniqlo had an opportunity not only to recover, but to shape a new market strategy. This is how it could have been done differently based on marketing theory, consumer insights, and real-world philosophy. Some alternative strategies are: first, proactive cultural alignment strategy. Instead of taking a reactive statement, Uniqlo could have initiated an active cultural alignment campaign by embedding messages of embracing Chinese culture and investment in the local population. This goes together with a framework of hosted to ensure that the brand values touch resonance with the socio-cultural norms of the host market. Second, dual-channel communication or globalization. By following the principle of globalization developed by Robertson, Uniqlo could preserve uniformity of core brand values and adjust message to the Chinese recipient via social media such as Weibo and Douyin, considering the political concerns and not losing touch with their Western consumers. Next, social commerce and state-approved influencer partnership. McKinsey identifies one of the major growth strategies in China: social commerce. The involvement in collaborations of state-approved KOLs and live-streaming hosts will give a bold compliance in the government and guarantee to customers against boycott message. Lastly, supply chain storytelling with blockchain verification. Consumer skepticism could be directly solved through using blockchain technology as transparent supply chain proof. This is also consistent with the studies of corporate transparency as a tool of building trust in politically sensitive market.